Beep beep! What is up, ninjas? My name is Samworld, and today we're going to be discussing sampling existing vocals for your tech house banger. Now, if you've been keeping an eye on the Beatport's tech house charts, the top 100 songs on Beatport, or you've been going on playlists on Spotify and listening to it while you run, work out, jerk off, you kind of get the idea that there's this kind of trend happening with a lot of the producers that they're sampling vocals from old existing songs that were really big. The most recent one that I saw on Beatport right now is one by this guy named DJ Something, sampling Destiny Child's Jumping, which when I was a kid, you know, I would hear that song and go, man, I can't wait to be old enough to go to a party. I'll be getting the girls, be drinking some sup, some lean. Back in the day, that's what they did. But in essence, I think these songs are doing so good because people remember them. People that used to hear them when they were kids are now clubbing. So in essence, if you're looking to do this, we're going to be going over everything to do it. Now, the first thing you must keep in mind with these kind of tracks, guys, is that you are using the work of someone else on your track, so you are going to have to go through some avenues to get the license for it. The good news is that if a label is interested in this track and they think it's worth going through that, they will acquire the license for you. Now, this is only for good labels, not backer labels that any artist says it's a label on SoundCloud, but the good labels that have a following, that do it proper, that are pretty big, they are going to be able to acquire the license for you. The problem is if they can't, and if they have to give up too much of the royalties to use that vocal in the track, then that might make it a little bit harder to get the track signed. The other good thing is that if you change the vocal enough, you can always say it's a cover, like someone else sang it and you distorted the shit out of it or pitched it down. And in essence, you can go down that route and get an easy cover license via a service like DistroKid or TuneCore. So those are easy alternatives to do. So don't let that draw you back. It's just stuff you must know when it comes down to the making of this stuff. Now, when trying to acquire some content, let's say you don't know what vocal you want to sample, I do suggest that you look back into your childhood or you go through some YouTube videos of the best song in the 90s, best song in the 2000s, best party songs, and you look for some good content that way. That's the best way to do it. And once you find it, just Google, you know, a cappella of certain song and see if you can purchase it. If you can't, which majority of the time you can't, you can always go on YouTube where there's a lot of acapellas, and you can always use YouTube to MP3 to download it, which is what I've done for this tutorial. The next thing is you're going to have to learn the BPM and the key of the vocal. Now, the problem with some vocals is that they're just too melodic. They're singing all over the place, and that is definitely going to make it harder to make a tech house banger. So make sure that when you're finding a vocal, there's not as much melodics going on, because remember, in tech house, the bass isn't really progressing. You have this loopable bass that is just catchy, but it's not going to be able to harmonize the vocal and change with the vocal. So you got to make sure the vocal's not doing anything crazy melodically. And you're going to see, I'm going to show you guys a fix for this as well if you do decide to go with a very melodic vocal that you can do to just make it fit. And the other thing is the BPM range of the vocal. If you get a vocal between 120 to 130, it's a lot easier to warp that into your tech house track, which is probably going to be between 124 and 130. How to kind of, if you get a vocal in the 90 BPM range, in the 100 BPM range, you got to speed it up. And sometimes if someone's rapping, it's going to sound like pitcha, hey, but they're better than the FSOD, you motherfucking motherfucker. And then it might not make sense in the track. So you got to keep those things in mind when you're finding a vocal. And you know, again, trial and error is everything in this, guys. No one's going to know this vocal is perfect. I mean, you just got to try it, and if it works, it works. But today, essentially, we're going to have these vocals, make some bass lines for the vocals, talk a little bit about how to get the vocal to fit and vice versa, and that is going to be the tutorial. And before we get started, if you want to support the channel, make sure to check out evilsounds.com. If you guys are making tech house, I do have the Dirty Chicken Volume 1 set. I'm currently working on the second one, which I am going to be using in this tutorial, so you guys can check it out. Mainly the drum samples, as I haven't created the presets yet for it. But I hope you guys enjoy the tutorial. I hope it helps, and let's get straight into it. Alright guys, so I have the first acapella here. Now this one is by Pink, Get the Party Started. Hopefully I don't get copyrighted. Okay, now the BPM for this is going to be, I believe, it's going to be at 129. So the first thing I always do, and I tell my students to do, is to always put the acapella at the BPM, the correct BPM. A lot of the music nowadays is on the 4 beat. So if you can do that and just get it right on the beat. So here, the song starts, the kick comes in there in the original song, then I know this is where it has to start. Once I have it there, I will warp it or unwarp it and warp it again. And then I will go down to the BPM, the desired BPM. So for us, it's 124. Once we have it there, we put the metronome. I'm coming up, so you better get this party started. Now you can see it sounds a little bit choppy, and that's just because we're in Beats mode. So we just got to go into Complex Pro. Beats mode is better for like drums, loops, and anything rhythmic like that with no key. But when you're in Pro, it tries to maintain it as best as possible, I find, and it doesn't have those little weird gaps or like artifacts. I'm
I'm coming up, so you better get this party started.
Alright, so once we have that, we are pretty much set to go. Now, I always Google the key of the track, and here it is, Get the Party Started by Pink, time signature 4/4, so that's perfect for what we're trying to do. The key is in B minor. I don't like that key, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe pitch it down to the F minor, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 semitones down. So we can do that ourselves here, -6, and then formants is going to play a huge role here. Now we can choose demonic vocal or non-demonic.
I'm coming up, so you better get this party started.
Okay, cool. So once I have that, let's start to get like everything there. So let me put the drums in for you guys so we get something to work with. Okay, so here I have these drum loops, and this is again from the pack that is coming out next month on July 25. That is my goal. So I still have a lot of time to work with it. But in essence, guys, we're going to have construction kits, and I'm just using here the full out drum construction kit we created for this one, but it sounds like this. Yeah, so as a construction kit, but I'm just using the drums for it. Maybe I'll use the effects as well, just to kind of get an idea for it or something. So we can definitely do that just to speed things up. So let me put this in first. Yo, I'm gonna get copyrighted for sure, but I hope you guys still get to watch the video, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use such the bass one shot from the pack. Again, you can make these bass lines yourself, but in essence, these are just bass lines I've sampled from my Moog Sub 37. I do a lot of live streams where I make these packs for you guys live. So if you guys ever want to walk in on those, I create a lot of the sample packs so you guys can see the creation from nothing to something. Okay, so I'm gonna use this bass. You know, there's a lot of different, like the Deceiver one has 2 layers to it, but I'm going to use this one, just a very simple saw square combination for the bass. We're going to be using sampler for this, and I'm just going to drop in that bass. Again, I'm sure a lot of you guys have presets that sound like this already. Hell, even the normal presets that come with any Serum silent synth will work. Just make sure it sounds techy enough. And once we have that, let's increase the volume here. Around there. And let's just get like a progression going with this. Now, essentially what I want to do with the bass is I want to add an EQ 8 just for now. I have processed these a lot already, so there's no need to do anything to them. And then we're just going to LF fold tool the bass like so, and then move this a little back so we don't get the click that comes with that usually. Once we have that, we can start our progression here. So I put this in, again, the key of F. Now, with these bass lines, essentially you just want something catchy that you can repeat and it's not going to annoy somebody. So you want to find a little bit of a combination. So let's see what we can do. So okay, doom. You can do different combinations, but I'm just going to go for a very simple one or try and play around. Usually I like to get the rhythm of the bass down first and then worry about the melody of. Okay, so a little bit variation there at the end. Now let's get a melody for this. Nothing too crazy. No, we need something that goes with that melody. Nah, that's great. Let's try something else. Maybe I'm just overthinking the rhythm, so maybe it should just be a very standard. And maybe like. I think that one's good because it has a good amount of rhythm. Doom, 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 doom. Yeah, because the doom, 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 it's just too slow for that vocal. So we're going to try that. And Maybe we can make the notes a little shorter, not too long, so it has a little bit more. Yeah, and we can even put like a swing preset and see if it does anything. So you can click on the groove. Usually the 1/16s are the ones, or the 1/8s you can do. A lot of the numbers you see in the swing features there have to do with the velocity parameters of the preset. So if you do have those assigned, you will hear it change. If not, it doesn't really matter which one you pick. So we're going to go here. Now, the next thing is just getting that vocal to have a nice vibe. So with tech house, the good thing about it is sometimes if you just have the bass, you have a lot of the high frequencies open if you ignore the hats. So we can definitely use like a CLA vocals, which is what I recommend to a lot of people utilizing vocals that are already processed. The key thing is to find a preset you like and then just take away from it. So here, if we put this one, you're going to see it's a bit too much. But we can always mess around with it, so we can move the lower up a bit. The top, we don't need any more highs. We're going to lower the compression down a bit because that's already compressed enough. But here we can go with a tighter reverb. Instead of going for a chamber style reverb, we can go for more of a closer reverb tight. We can make the delay be huge, or we can just go with a slap, which is a very kind of tape delay. And what I mean by that is that the delay is not going at 1/8 or 1/4, but rather going by milliseconds. The other thing too is you don't have to sidechain your vocals, but you can choose to do it, as it will give it a certain rhythm. So if I go crazy with it,
check my gold diamond rings. I can go for miles if you know what I mean.
and then just come back into it. Obviously, that's the idea of that. You know, essentially, you're kind of revolving your song around the vocal. So now from there, if you just follow that at the beginning of this drum loop, there's like this really nice part. So you can definitely use the beginning of it. So that way we just.
I'll take my gold diamond rings. I can go for miles if you know what I mean.
Oh wait, we got to bring it back in, but you get the idea of that. It's a very simple creation of a song, but the important thing is for it to be catchy. And then honestly, you know, with the song, obviously you can always find little portions of it. Like I like this little part of it. So
I'm coming up, I'm coming.
And then you can just get rid of that.
I'm coming up, I'm coming.
You can do a lot with it. I'm getting goosebumps, man. Maybe I should turn this into a song. But essentially, that's going to be the basics of it. And again, like I stated, even though it looks very simple, there are difficulties with it. Like I stated, the first one is that you got to make sure the vocal fits. The second one, don't get to anything too melodic. I love you, yeah, you know, it just won't work. However, let's assume you find a vocal and you really like the way it sounds in terms of melodics. Not melodic, but just what it's saying. Then you can use stuff like Alter Boy to kind of just get it to kind of tone down a bit. You can use a quantize feature, which is a really cool one.
I'm coming up, so you better get this.
There's still a bit of vocal, so let's go robotic.
I'm coming up, so you better get this party started.
So then we get. The key is you want to make it not sound too robotic. So I believe when you have the pitch at 0, it's at C. So we would have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 semitones down, the perfect fifth, of course. Then what I don't like about that is you can kind of hear it fucks with the vocal a bit, so you are going to have to mono it a bit, so we can always put the little altar boy here, not before the CLA, and then always go mono on left or right side only. You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that's one of the ways I would do it. It gets really hard, so that's why it's perfect to find the right vocal. All right, now, guys, the next vocal is going to be a little bit harder. This one we are going to have to warp, but I'm going to show you guys how to warp, how you want to approach it, the technique behind it. So let's get to that vocal. All right, guys, so here is the vocal, and let's get rid of the effects and the sidechain on it so you guys can hear it properly. Now, this one's harder. This one's in 94 BPM, but essentially, I know where it needs to land as I've heard the original song, and the original song lands on this part here, but I'll let you guys hear it. So you can see it's all fucked up, okay? Again, I might get copyrighted for this, but again, I hope you guys can see the video. If not, I'll have to mute it and re-upload it. But anyways, what I'm going to do is go in Complex Pro and then just make this work. Essentially, that's what I want. I know it needs to land on that bomba part, though, and that's the hard thing about it. So what I can do instantly is I could go like, you know, fuck the beginning of the vocal and just get rid of it because I don't want to spend time with it. However, this vocal, that part would really make a good build up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to Control J, highlight the part I want, just separate it from this part over here. I'm going to Control J this as well. Again, I have these in Complex Pro, doesn't really matter. So once I have that like so, I can go Complex Pro on this. Okay, now this is going to be in C sharp major or D flat major, as they would say, in the whatever website I saw this in. This is going to make it a little bit harder, but if we get this, now we have this. So I just got to time it. So bomba. So it has to be faster. That's the only issue. So here, bomba, and then I just have to warp. So a lot of times Ableton's going to give you these recommended features. You can see these little kind of gray lines. Those are transient starts. So where it finds like someone saying something or like a syllable or like a t, like bomba, you know, so boom, that's one, and ba, it's another. So it spreads it out and it makes it a lot easier. So here it's just fine tuning. So I know this needs to be here. Again, keeping it in time. Use those dots to your advantage. See, here it gets too slow, so we're going to move. And then we're going to put that. See, too fast there. And there we go. So there we go. We're starting to take line. There we go. Now we got it perfect. So now I know this needs to start here. So I'm going to move it. Okay, so here I'm going to move it. And then I know it needs to be like this. You guys already know the gist. This one. Maybe here and then here. Let's try that. Yeah, there we go. That was perfect. And now we just time it. It can get a little harder with certain vocals. Just keep that in mind. But the biggest mistake I see people make is that they don't land the vocal right on the beat where it needs to land when it starts. And that fucks the whole warping thing up for you because you're never going to get it that way. So it's very important that you hear the original song, you find where the beat lands, like that kick on the vocal, not the pre-part of the vocal, but the vocal lands on that beat. And once you have that set up, you can go warp and it becomes a lot easier. Those are some tips I'll give you right out of the get-go so you aren't like me back in the day where it was just like hell. So I'm just gonna do like my thing. Some of you guys might be laughing. So you can see here, this one kind of starts there a little late, so we're gonna put it there. See, that one didn't land on the beat, but you have to keep an eye out for that as you're doing this as a producer. Okay, so we're going to do this again. Boom. Again, it's doing it again. Y las mujeres lo bailan así. I think it's gonna be like that. Beat again. Again, you guys know the deal here. Let's get it right. So here I'm just gonna speed it up so you guys already know and come back to you guys with the finished outcome of the vocal war.
Para bailar esto es una bomba, para gozar esto es una bomba, para menear esto es una bomba, y las mujeres lo bailan así, 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 así todo el mundo, una mano en la cabeza, una mano en la cabeza, un movimiento sexy, un movimiento sexy.
And that's where the vocal ends. I kind of fucked up a little bit here, but what I'm gonna do is just keep this part here for the drop, and then the break could kind of have this. And you know, again, it's just the creative aspect of how you use the vocal, but we're just gonna go with this. Again, too much melodic movement, so we're just gonna keep this part here. You hear like a little click happening there, so we're gonna add a bit of fades just to kind of counteract the click when it kind of loops, mask it a little bit. A little bit less. There we go. So now we can make the bass. Now, again, I already told you the key of this one, so it makes it a little bit easier. It's in C sharp, but if you look at the piano chord, so you can go on YouTube sometimes and put piano of certain song, and they'll show like a piano thing coming down. You can see what chords are playing, so you know where it starts. So this song, actually, even though it's in C sharp major or D flat major, it's actually going to be at the F chord. So it's going to work best there. Okay, so we're going to do that. Dun, 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 or some shit. So now it's just the hard part, which is finding, you know, the right balance for it. So let's pull the volume on the vocal down a bit. You can see it doesn't fit the song because it just sounds so dry. So that's why we're going to use CLA vocals. Too much. Holy shit. All right. Let's slow it down. So now I can add a bit of sidechain. I think it's going to help a lot because it just keeps repeating. So we can definitely do a lot of times you can mono down the vocals as well if you find they're not like kind of working. Now let's just alter boy to see if we can kind of just get it to sound a little bit different. So again, this is another trick we can use. So here it's in C. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down, that's going to give us a little bit more of a robotic vibe. And it sounds a lot better for sure. We're going to put Alter Boy behind EQ8. The thing is you can kind of hear this demonic ass when it plays two notes together. So that's the bad thing about that technique, is that when you have two notes harmonizing, it creates this really nasty effect, as you can see. So you kind of get the idea there with that. That one is just a little bit fucked because of that harmonizing. That's where you need to find vocals that would fit. Here, this one works except for that bomba part because it's all harmonized. But this is a song from my childhood. But in essence, guys, that's what we do to create these tracks. From there, it's just creative. If you want to do like little vocal chops, you want to switch it up, the break, the drop. I've talked about all this on my channel. Make sure to look out for the Tech House playlist I have, How to Tech House or How to Dirty Bird. But in essence, that's going to be the end of the video. Hopefully this helps you guys in warping, figuring out what vocals to use, how to find them, how to download them, and I'll catch you guys next time. Again, if you guys want to support my channel, this pack will be coming out next month. In an instance, this pack, I'm trying to make it the all pack for tech house in the style. It's going to contain a little bit of everything, and once it comes out, you guys can check out some of the stuff. But if you guys want to hear some of the demos before we jam, they're going to sound amazing, as you're going to see. The construction kits are meant to be used the way I did right now, where you kind of use certain things you like and then work around it to create your song. Here's one that I really like. You can check that out. But yeah, check them out, guys. You're gonna have effects, really cool effects like that. So make sure to check it out. There's gonna be a lot more in the pack for sure than what we have now. It's still in the works, but I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial, and I'll catch you guys next time.